Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, and I want to say Shalom to you brothers and sisters out there, Yakim Nakwat out there, pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. Now, this one doesn't have a set title or anything like that. It'll most likely be titled something along the lines of microchimerism in women, or women retain men DNA during sexual intercourse, or something along those lines, right? And that's what we're talking about today. Now, this is inspired, through the Holy Spirit, but through an article that I happened to find on Reddit under popular. And it was this post right here by this person, Madeline, all right, that, is just a whore, okay, and doesn't understand it. And a response that was made by this guy, Josh, okay. So Madeline says, there is no difference between having sex with 36 men and having sex 36 times with one man. Let me read that again. She's saying there is no difference between having sex with 36 men, 36 different men, and having sex 36 times with one man. Josh comes back and says, if you put your finger in your drink 30 times, you may still drink it. But if 30 people put their finger in your drink, would you drink it? All right. And now all of a sudden it has changed. Well, no, that's different. No. You're right. Okay. Are you going to drink it with all this shit that's been up in it? No, you're not. No, you're not. And that's the same. So when men don't want to get with you, all right, because you're 40 men deep, okay, you can't be surprised. You can't be surprised. Okay. And the clapback that women will usually have is they'll say, well, what's the difference between a man that has sex with 40 different women? Okay. Hasn't he been defiled and tainted? No. Because men and women are fundamentally different. Okay. The Bible teaches us that. Genetics teaches us that. All right. Science. You don't like the Bible, but a lot of you claim to love science. Okay. And one of the big studies that's been going on, all right, and well, I won't say big, but a study that's been going on in the background is dealing with microchimerism. Okay, microchimerism. Now, if you know what a chimera is, okay, it's if any of you nerds should know right off the bat what a chimera is. It's kind of like a half lion, half bird, not chimera golf. It's kind of like a half lion, half bird thing here. They usually have wings. There you go. What exactly is a chimera? Forgotten Realms. We'll go from there, from D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, right? Chimera. So it looks to be a dragon, a goat, and a lion, all combined. I know historical. What's the word that they use? Folklore. All right, can differ, because here we see a lion, an eagle, and a dragon. This one seems to be a lion, a goat, and a dragon. So let's see what they say here in the Dungeons and Dragons version. It says it's a dragon, a goat, and a lion. Okay, a dragon, a goat, and a lion. This is, of course, from Dungeons and Dragons, Forgotten Realms. Let's go and see if we can get it in mythology from the Wikipedia. It is a lion, a goat, and a snake's head. Okay, so you see it, there's differing varieties of it, all right, but it's three animals combined into one. All right, it's one animal, and the base is almost always a lion, all right? The base is a lion, okay, that has taken on these traits from these other animals, okay? So chimera, all right? Chimera. So chimerism, okay? Chimerism is what? Is a condition in which some cells or tissues in a person's body contain at least two different sets of DNA, okay? And DNA is a genetic makeup of who you are, all right? You get some from both of your parents, okay? But women also pick up sets of DNA from people that they have had sexual encounters with, okay? Permanently. Okay, like you have permanent things that come from your father, permanent things that come from your mother as far as DNA being passed down. When you have sexual partners, men do not, all right? But women, well, I think men in a small capacity do, very small capacity, but not like women do, pick up sets of DNA from their sexual, partners, right? But what you're more likely to pick up as a man is the demons from these women, right? So that's why you got to make sure, as a man, you're being careful with these women, because they're 40 men deep. Not on top of having their demons wear off on you. You don't want to have there's something else a little bit more permanent. All right, wear off on you, like some diseases. All right, that's what I was trying to say. Slakia, some diseases. All right, 40 deep. That's increasing your odds, man. These days, oh man, you're increasing your odds. So I wanted to get a couple of articles. Now I found, I didn't know about this. I haven't seen any brothers ever use it, so I don't know if it's new. All right, I'm gonna look it up. Is Google Scholar new? Google Scholar, it started 20 years ago. It's been growing ever since. I've never heard about it until just now. I don't know if they just don't advertise it or whatever, but I have it saved now. So Google Scholar, you can go here, and it's great for like looking up different articles. So you can go to, try it, sure. I don't want that. But you can go and look up, I was saying all these different things. I was like, let's see if I can look up RFID implants and see what's in here. But interesting, you can see stuff like this, 2023, 2007, it'll tell you the year. All right, but we can go since 2025. This is German. So you can go and click on it, and it'll bring you to a page. And of course that you're not going to be able to understand. You can go to the full text. It won't let you, but we can go here. We can go German to English. It's talking about regular RFID and stuff like that, it looks like, but different things like that. So what I did was I researched what they called the topic, and you can see that this is from AAP, okay, and it's from a fact checker that doesn't really know, and it still proves in a way that it happens. Now, it says male DNA living forever in women after sex is short on evidence, okay, but of course you have to do your research. It says a social media post claims that if a woman has sex with a man, his DNA lives in her forever. This Facebook post from May 19th features an image of a man and a woman wrapped in chains and engaged in a sexual act. The post is headed, "Recent research on DNA transmission via sex." The text of the post goes on to say, if you have sex with a man, his DNA lives in you forever. A research by University of Seattle, USA, has proven that there is now a greater understanding of why God, use their word here, asks us not to have sex before we get married. This research proves that any man that a woman has sex with leaves part of his DNA in the woman. The man who had more sex with her leaves more of his DNA in the woman. So when a woman ovulates, the eggs that she produced contain more of other DNAs. And that doesn't mean it's half and half. That doesn't mean that's not like confusion or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is, DNA can attribute to certain traits, right? So the post goes to say the study found the presence of genetically distinct male cells in the brains of women called microchimerism. This also means that these male cells will be found in a fetus when the woman gets pregnant, it says. And that is true. They've actually proved that. And you can go and look up microchimerism. Okay. It says microchimerism refers to the presence of foreign genetically distinct cells within an individual, typically resulting from cell transfer during pregnancy or other events like organ transplants or blood transfusions. So blood transfusions, when you have someone else's blood that goes inside of your body, you take on part microchimerism, you take part of their genetic makeup. All right, same with organ transplants. It says, while often associated with fetal cells in the mother, it can also involve maternal cells in the fetus or cells exchanged between twins. So the other thing that you got to realize is when a woman, another thing that even if you say it doesn't happen between sex, when a woman becomes pregnant, all right, and a lot of these women are getting abortions. When a woman becomes pregnant, that fetus shares cells over with the mother, and process of microchimerism, all right, takes on some traits of that fetus, which of course is taking on traits from its father. So you're taking on traits of that man by having that man's seed within you. All right, regardless if you believe that it happens within sex, it does 100% scientifically backed happen during pregnancy. Okay, it was first discovered, this concept was first discovered in the 1960s, with the term gaining usage in the 1970s. So you can go ahead and see that in humans, and perhaps all placental mammals, the most common form is feto-maternal microchimerism, also known as fetal cell microchimerism or fetal chimerism, whereby cells from a fetus pass through the placenta and establish cell lineages within the mother. Fetal cells have been documented to persist and multiply in the mother for several decades, so even after, pregnancy. The exact phenotype of these cells is unknown, although several different cell types have been identified, such as various immune lineages, I'm not going to be able to pronounce that, mesenchymal stem cells, and placental-derived cells. A 2012 study by the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center in Seattle has detected cells within the Y chromosome in multiple areas of the brains of deceased women. So there you go. And why is that? So they're finding these cells that are within the brains of deceased women. Now, they can scientifically prove already that these are coming through things like pregnancy, all right, through the fetus passing it through the placenta, all right, but what they are not proving yet, all right, as this article is saying, is that it actually comes from sexual intercourse, all right, which it does, but they just don't believe it. There is documentation on it, they just don't seem to believe it. So you can see after giving birth, about 50 to 75% of women carry fetal immune cell lines. Maternal immune cells are also found in the offspring, yielding in maternal to fetal microchimerism. Though this phenomenon is about half as frequent as the former, so even less. So you can see that microchimerism, you can go and look up, does microchimerism still occur when after abortion? All right. You can see a fetal microchimerism persists decades later and includes cells with pluripotent capacity. Persistent microchimerism has the capacity for both beneficial and detrimental maternal health consequences. Both miscarriage and termination of pregnancy can result in fetal chimerism. So it doesn't matter if you get rid of the child, all right, you're still going to have that man cell in you. And a lot of the time, these women are getting pregnant, all right, and they're having abortions and abortion and abortion. So that still accounts for you. That has been proved 100%. Now, they're saying it hasn't been proved 100% about the DNA being passed through sexual intercourse. But it still does occur, right? It still does occur. Let's see what else we have here. This person said, no wonder kids turn out to look nothing like both parents. Scary. And who knows, that could have something to do with the genetic makeup, right? If all this DNA is inside of this woman and that DNA gets passed on to the child, that might be some DNA. Now, again, it's not the father's seed line, all right? It's not the father's seed line. It's the father's, it comes through the father, all right? Your seed line, okay? But who's to say that this, if this kid has some fucking crazy bushy ass eyebrows and no one else in the family had it, and here it was, this bitch was, getting dogged down by some dude with some this Elamite that had some bushy ass eyebrows. Who's to say that some of those traits aren't picked up? All right. So this is a newer study after all right. But of course, the father is the one who passes down lineage. So just because this woman had, sex with a Jake and was having sex with a bunch of Jakes, and then she gets with an Edomite, that doesn't mean that the child's a Jake because that DNA is in there. That's not how it works. All right, it's through that full seed line, that lineage. Okay, you might pick up certain DNA, just like if you were to get a blood transplant. All right, here it is. You're an Israelite, and you're to get a blood transplant, and the blood transplant came from an Edomite. That doesn't mean you're an Edomite now. All right, somehow that overwrote your lineage. It's not how it works. Right? That'd be confusion. So let's continue on and read. It says the analysis. The study that appears to be the source of the Facebook post claims do not suggest that a man's DNA is transferred into a woman during sexual intercourse. The idea that women carry the DNA of their sexual partners can be traced to a 2017 article from Your Newswire, a frequent source of misinformation. Of course, they're going to try to downplay it as much as possible. We got other things that prove it. It says the article cites a new study from researchers which purportedly showed women retain and carry living DNA from every man with whom they have had sexual intercourse. However, the study it referred to, published in the medical journal PLOS One in 2012, was not new, neither when the 2017 article nor the more recent Facebook posts were published. The study, titled Male Microchimerism in the Human Female Brain, was also misidentified. And we're going to see, we got a couple of them here that are going to really prove, if you just understand the research that's going to go on, because we have two of them from Google Scholar we're going to read. It says, instead, it involved academics from Seattle's Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center and University of Washington in Seattle. One of the Fred Hutchinson Center labs focuses on the concept of microchimerism. We were just talking about that, which it says most commonly involves the exchange of DNA between mother and child during pregnancy. Identifying the existence of male cells in the bodies of female is not new, as this blog post published by PLOS about the research pointed out. For example, it cited 1996 research that found pregnancy set up a long-term low-grade chimeric state in the human female. So you're going to continue on and go and read it if you can want. But it's basically saying that it says false, this content that has no basis in fact. Okay, now there's a whole bunch of stuff that, according to Esau, has no basis in fact. All right, Yahushai coming back, according to Esau, has no basis in scientific fact and a bunch of stuff. Now, it's just really because that's one article that says that, oh, that's not correct. And again, most of these articles are pro-female, so they don't want there to be any type of animosity to be thrown about with these females. But there's two or three really. I want to read some of these. These are the main two I was reading right here, and I also want to read about this one. Okay, so the first one is this full text from Universal Library of Medical and Health Science, and it's by this person, whoever, right? It's just a little interesting little excerpt here that I thought. It said, citation, a philosophical exploration of the mysteries of DNA, Universal Library of Medical and Health Science, Volume 2. So the abstract here is that it says this paper investigates the intriguing implication of recent research conducted by the academics from Seattle's Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center and the University of Washington in Seattle on the mysteries of DNA. So that was actually, University of Washington. All right, these were actually universities that were researching this stuff. It wasn't just pulled out of someone's ass. All right, now they're saying it doesn't have any factual basis. Well, it's currently being investigated, but they have found traces of things that that seemingly cannot be explained except any other way. So you got to let them, before there were certain things that were proved. You can go and look up what were some things that, well, you know what I can do? I don't even have to do it like this because I have this little button on my computer mouse. Bam. Okay. What are some things that people thought were not true or impossible until they were proved scientifically? I spelled that wrong, but whatever. Now let's go and see. All right, the earth is round, not flat. Invisible germs can make people sick. And those are really demons and stuff. Heavier than air machines can fly. All right, no one's going to be able to fly a plane. It's impossible. All right, the sun is the center of the soul. Well, no, that's not that. So it's giving us some false stuff. But again, that's scientifically rooted, but it's not rooted biblically. All right, so we take things, make sure they're biblically accurate as well as scientifically accurate. Right? If the science doesn't add up with the Bible, then it's wrong. Okay, so it says they're basically doing a research on the mysteries of DNA. That's integration in the human body through sexual intercourse. The study reveals that engaging in sexual activity with a man leads to the absorption of his DNA by a woman, with the amount of genetic material retained increasing with multiple sexual partners. The presence of genetically distinct male cells in a woman's body, including brain, highlights the potential long-term effects on her physiology and psychology. Furthermore, and that's why some of these bitches go fucking nuts, man, because they have all this DNA for all, 30, 40 different people. It says, furthermore, this genetic integration can influence the genetic composition of a woman's eggs and subsequently affect the developing fetus. The findings underscore the importance of sexual responsibility, faithfulness, and the impact of extramarital affairs on marital relationships. It says, additionally, the research offers insights into the behavioral tendencies observed in children that are inconsistent with their biological parents, suggesting a link to a genetic integration. Understanding these complexities can contribute to fostering healthier relationships, families, and societies. So that's what they're researching right now, right? That's one of the things that they're trying to study. Bear with me while I grab a drink. And of course, this isn't going to be a popular study because, of course, no woman wants to hear it. They don't want to hear that the amount of men that they have sex with, all right? And here it is. They're having sex with criminals, all right? And, you know, here it is. They're absorbing all that person's DNA. And, you know, they've already proved that criminality, that's even the correct word for it, has roots in psychology, right? They found out the brains of these people are different. They develop different, all right? And, of course, things developing different, all right, could be directly related to DNA. So here it is, you know, now you're acting all crazy, or you have kids and with a good guy and your kids are acting all wild, all right? It could be that you retain some of that DNA, and some of that DNA, all right, that was microchimeric in you, all right, happen to get passed down into those children, all right, which is fucking weird, all right, and completely out of order, and that's why you're not supposed to be doing it, all right? And mind you, the act of having sex in itself is marriage. Okay, you're not supposed to have, you know, sex outside of marriage once you're married, right? Because that is adultery. And we're going to prove that right here. First of all, that you're not supposed to be doing it. 1 Corinthians 7:39, the wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth, but if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in the Lord. So a woman, all right, is bound, all right, to the man after that sexual intercourse, all right, as long as her husband liveth. Another one that you can get is Romans 7, and 2. It says, for the woman which hath an husband is bound by the law to her husband, so long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband. So then, if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, have sex with another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. Now, we can prove that in Genesis 24 and 67, when Isaac brought Rebekah, all right, into his mother's tent and laid down to her, right here, Genesis 24 and 67. And Isaac brought her, Rebekah, into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. So that was the act of marriage right there, okay, that he took her, all right, took her. Now, let's go and see what this word took means, all right, in the Good News in the Blue Letter Bible and the Hebrew, the Strong's Hebrew, okay? And took.
Strong's H 3947. Lakach.
Okay, and you see right here, at the end right here, to marry, to take a wife. Okay, to take a wife. Okay, lakach. All right, to take a wife. Okay, let's go and see here if we can find the version in Genesis. Oops. I guess I won't have it like that in 67, but let's see. So we were at, where were we at? It was number 1 and 4. Let's see. Of land. It's taking marriage, so here we go. Right here. So yeah, it's E and 2. Took onto him. Yeah. So E and 2. So it'd be this word right here. What is this one? Come on. All right, it goes back to that word right there. You can see, which is
Strong's H802. Isha. Isha.
all right. Isha, a woman, a wife. All right, a wife. Wife. All right, to wife them. All right, to wife them up. Right, comes from this word, and this word. From, you know, 2 versions of men. All right, so wife, woman, basically means woman. This is basically means woman, female, woman. So wife. Okay, wife. Okay, take them as wife. Okay, you can see. All right. So continuing, we'll get to these in a minute. Is this the other one, the same one? Let's see. Yeah, we'll look into that in a minute. But yeah, so going back. So yeah, that taking, all right, took. All right, took. When you take a woman, all right, all right, she becomes your wife. Okay? When you have sexual intercourse with a woman, she becomes your wife. That's it. So if you go and after you've had sex with a man like that, you take and you go and have sex with another man, okay? It doesn't matter if he broke up with you or whatever, all right? You become an adulteress, all right? Because you're still bound to that man, all right? And he was wrong for leaving you like that, and he's basically going to be punished because he's, you know, we can go and get that. There's a scripture. All right, here, Matthew 15 and 31. We'll go and get that over here. It says, "It hath been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving that for the cause of fornication," you know, she was an adulteress or whatever, right? Or doing something sick, homosexual or something like that, right? "Causeth her to commit adultery." All right, you're going to cause that woman to commit adultery by doing that. "And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced committeth adultery." So she's going to be committing adultery, and, you know, and then that guy that's with her is going to be committing adultery. All right, so if you do that, you're going to be guilty because you caused that woman to commit adultery, right? So, oops, let me leave that open so we can continue to grab scriptures. So let's go and get some of these articles. And I don't know how long I've been going for. 29 minutes. All right. We're going to get some of these and then we're going to close out. All right. So let's listen to it, actually.
Article information. Abstract. Male microchimerism, the presence of a small number of male cells in women, has been attributed to prior pregnancies. However, male microchimerism has also been reported in women with only daughters, in nulliparous women and prepubertal girls, suggesting that other sources of male microchimerism must exist.
Interesting. I don't like how she speaks. So they did a study on Danish girls, okay, 2015. Male microchimerism, the prevalence of a small number of male cells in women, have been attributed to prior pregnancies. However, male microchimerism has also been reported in women with only daughters. So how is that happening? In nulliparous women and prepuberatal girls, suggesting that other sources of male microchimerism must exist, i.e., probably through sexual intercourse, right? And those women are probably picking that up from, those men. It says, now we're going to read something that's really telling of what it is. The aim of the present study was to examine the presence of male microchimerism in a cohort of healthy nulliparous, how do you pronounce this word?
Nulliparous.
Nulliparous, all right, Danish girls aged 10 to 15. So they got 10 to 15. So people that were prepubescent and people that were pubescent, right? It says using girls aged 10 to 15, using DNA extracted from cells from whole blood, buffy coats, and report the association with potential sources of male cells. A total of 154 girls were studied, of which 21, 13.6%, tested positive for male microchimerism. These were just girls, potentially, that they just grabbed, all right? There was a tendency that girls were more likely to test positive for male microchimerism if their mothers previously had received a transfusion, had given birth to a son, or had a spontaneous abortion. Furthermore, the oldest girls were more likely to test positive for male microchimerism. Why were the oldest girls more likely to test positive? Now, did they 100% assure that these girls were non-sexually active? Okay, because 15, 14, 13, these days, even back in 2017 or 2016 when this article was formed, were still very sexual active. These women are getting, these ladies and young women are getting sexually active, even younger than that now, man. All right, so that's all that's on the TV and video games and everything is sex. So what do you think they're going to be doing even before puberty? Sex, because it's something that they, that's all over. All right, they've over-sexualized a whole generation. It says furthermore, the oldest girls were more likely to test positive for male microchimerism. Now, did they identify that those women were not sexually active? Okay, they say girls, but 15 biblically, all right, after the age of 12. All right, and 12 and up, all right, biblically, not that we would be getting with them now, but biblically, those women were considered permissible to be married, all right, married, of course, going back to having sex with, okay, it's not something that we do now, all right, but it is going to be like that going forth in the kingdom, all right, because that's, you got to realize the Lord is not the author of confusion, okay, if the act of someone, what's the word I'm looking for, menstruating, all right, is the tale that they are now producing eggs, all right, that are able to be, all right, inoculated, or is that the word I'm looking for? To be inhabited, all right, by a male sperm cell, all right, sperm cell. Why is that if they're not of age to be pregnant yet? All right, that is the telling of a woman of coming to age, all right, is that they can actually have children. Like a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, they can't give birth, okay? But when you come to that age and you become pubescent, all right, and you hit puberty, you can now, okay? Just like a man can produce sperm cells that actually, work, all right? And around the same age, 12, 13, okay? And the reason is because historically, all right, beyond your recent developments of, now a woman has to be 21 or 23 or 18, right? Biblically and historically, okay, people were having sex at a younger age. All right, because that's what that was a telltale sign of. You bled, all right. You were a woman, all right. You were not shooting blanks anymore as a man. You were a man, all right, or as a boy, you're now a man, okay. And men and women were marrying at the age of 13, 14 years old, getting married with each other, okay. So that's something you need to realize, okay. So quick little interjection in there, okay, because were these girls 100% identified as not being sexually active? Okay, because if not, if they were having if they were sexually active, then of course that's probably why they're more likely. The older girls are more likely to test positive for male microchimerism, probably because they're sexually active. Okay, so we can see right here. It says, and you can even see at the end, and this is a Dutch study, all right, or Danish study. It says, however, less than half of the microchimerism positivity was attributable to these factors. In conclusion, data suggests that male microchimerism in young girls may originate from an older brother, either fully born or from a discontinued pregnancy, that's an abortion, or from a transfusion during pregnancy. We speculate that sexual intercourse may be important, but other sources of male cells likely exist in young girls. Sexual intercourse might be important. Boom. There you go. And this is talking about male microchimerism in women without sons. And we don't really need to read this. You can read it if you want, but it's basically dealing with this. They were finding out that even women that didn't have a son, all right, and they're more likely to exist in women that did have sons, but even women that did not have sons were still having this male microchimerism DNA within them. How is that? And like it says in this Danish study, all right, they speculate that sexual intercourse may be important, but other sources of male cells likely exist in young girls. So it's not just sexual intercourse, but there's a multitude of reasons why. Okay, so aside from that one little article that said, oh no, it's not, it's not a good, decision, or oh, we don't think there's a lot of information. No, nope. I know that you feel some type of way because you don't want it to go out, but that's the fact of the matter. Okay, that is the fact of the matter. Now, let's go ahead and, what else do I want to get? Let's see. I want to get one or two more, and then we're going to go ahead and close out. Let's see. Well, really, that's why you should really be careful going around these fucking whores, all right? So let's get 23 and 27, and we know this isn't going to be a popular subject to talk upon. All right, so let's get first of all, for you women, let's get Ecclesiasticus or Sirach. All right, 42 and 11. That's not the one I wanted. Well, really, that's a reason you should keep your women in. It's but yeah, let's read it. Ecclesiasticus 42 and 11. If you got a daughter and she's a whore, it's really a shame to you, man. It says, keep a sure watch over a shameless daughter, lest she make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies. And it's same with a woman, right? Same with a woman, your wife. Lest she make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies, and a byword in the city, and a reproach among the people, and make thee ashamed before the multitude. Salakia. What I wanted, though, is Sirach. Looking at my list here. Sirach 26 and 22. I got my little list up on my phone. Ecclesiasticus 26 of things that I may or may not want to hit, so I'm just picking and choosing. So Ecclesiasticus 26 and 22. A harlot and harlot shall be accounted as spittle. That's nothing. But a married woman is a tower against death to her husband. So a whore doesn't do any good for a man. All right, does not do any good. And then finally, we're gonna probably close out with this. Let me look through my list. Yeah, we're gonna close out with this. Okay, this is why you need to watch out, you men out there, and be careful who you're getting with. Okay, be careful who you're getting with, because if this woman's getting with a bunch of men and you have sex with her, all right, there is now evidence that maybe some of these previous men's DNA is gonna wear off on this child that you're about to have with this woman. Okay, and again, it's not, we know the Lord's not the author of confusion. It's not gonna change your bloodline or your lineage. But if this guy, had cancer or heart issues running in the family, or all these, you don't know what they had. There's a likelihood, if that microchimerism is in that woman, that has now become part of her DNA, that she might pass down that trait. All right, and that's not something you want in your kids. Okay, so you gotta watch out, man. You gotta watch out. And we don't know how that translates between, you putting your rod in that woman. We don't know if that bounces off onto men as well. And you don't want, here it is, this woman's had 58 men, all right, and now you're putting your rod in her, and you don't know if their microchimerism bounces the other way. All right, you don't want that. So you need to be careful, man. You can't just, gotta be careful. So Proverbs 23 and 27 says, for a man is a deep ditch, and a strange woman is a narrow pit, which means, hey, man, we got to get verse 28. It says, she also lieth in wait as for a prey. and increaseth the transgressors among men. Let's go and get that in the Good News translation, and then we're going to go ahead and close out. Okay, so this woman's like a predator, all right, waiting to just destroy you, man. It says, prostitutes and immoral women are a deadly trap. And, prostitute, you can get with a prostitute, but, again, you got to, you might pick up some stuff from those women. You got to be careful, all right, whether it's demons, diseases, or whatever. Okay, it's not a sin, all right? It is permissible, but it's something you still need to be wary of. You get with a dirty $4 whore, don't be surprised if you come with some $4 whore gifts. All right, back to your apartment. All right, oh, my shit itches, man. Oh, it burns when I pee. Right? Hey, verse 27. Prostitutes and immoral women are like a deadly trap, or Salaki, are a deadly trap. They wait for you like robbers and cause many men to be unfaithful. Not unfaithful in as far as, unfaithful as against women, because of course you can have multiple women. Okay, shouldn't be doing it now, but you can. Biblically, all right, it is permissible as well. But it's going to cause you to lead you astray from the Lord. Really, is the biggest thing. Okay, and you don't want to be led astray from the Lord. So, the little article there, you can go and see these things. It's proven, man, and they're doing it's in studies right now. Okay, it's in the studies right now, and even if they did fully reveal it, it's probably not something that they would slack it. Even if they fully understood it, it's not something that they would likely reveal. All right, to a full capacity, because these women feel some type of way, and they'll know science is sexist, and it is. By the way, science is inherently sexist, because you can go ahead and all these men that are masquerading as women right now, and all these women are masquerading around as men, and theoretically, if there was 1,000 years, all right, and your bones are in a ditch somewhere, guess what? They're going to be able to take that skull, take those ribs, take that skeleton that you have there, and they're going to be able to identify that you were a 29-year-old male, all right. And that's it, okay? That's because guess what? And even if you chopped off your wiener, it doesn't matter if you chopped off your wiener, because guess what? All that is cartilage. There's no bone, all right? There's no bone. They're going to be able to tell by your hips, all right, and your pubic area that you had a penis, all right? At least at one point, right? They're not going to be able to tell if you chopped it off or not, because it's just going to be bone, and you're not chopping into bone, all right? A male skeleton looks different than a female skeleton because we are different. All right, so it's inherently showing, science inherently shows that men and women are different. Despite how much psychology wants to say we're the same, science shows us that we are very much different. So, no, it's a strange topic, all right? I hope it wasn't too confusing, all right, or bugged out sounding, all right? I know it's a different and a strange, weird topic, but it's something that's definitely curious. It's definitely something that I've heard brothers talk about before, all right? This not necessarily maybe in the capacity of saying the word microchimerism, but I remember brothers talking about women picking up DNA from every man they get with. So I wanted to do a deeper study into the scientificness of it. All right. Once I saw this, I said, I know the brothers talking about that, and then somehow I found out about Google Scholar. I said, let me go and research this. So again, take it with what you will. All right. We don't know the full capacity of how the DNA necessarily works. All right. So I could be wrong with certain things. Who knows? As far as that goes, if any brother or apostle ever has any corrections they would like to make, please do. All right, so I can be, walking in the right way. But yeah, we're still, they're still trying to figure out the whole DNA situation. All right, scientifically. So if that could be passed down to a child, all right, and here it is. This woman was with all these men. If their DNA could be passed down to that child because it's microchimerism is in that woman. All right, that is, I guess they haven't really done any studies on that, but I wouldn't be surprised. All right, if that DNA is now part of that woman, women pass down their DNA. Who's to say that part of that DNA is not to be passed down? But of course, the man is still the one who carries the seed, that the sperm that came from that man and got into that egg. It's of course going to be through his lineage. So if that man's a Jake, that baby's going to be a Jake, right? So that's it. That's a lesson. A little interesting topic. Of course, it's not a whole bunch just came out on it yet. Who knows if they're going to fully do any revealing studies on it. I highly doubt it. But that's the lesson for today. I'll probably title it Microchimerism has been, let's see, Microchimerism. Let me type it in here. Microchimerism in women. Microchimerism in women. DNA from women. No, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out post. All right, we'll figure out something like that. So we're gonna close out. All right. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakwadash. I want to say shalom to you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring. Keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Until next one, Lord willing. Shalom.